As many Nintendo fans patiently, or rather impatiently, wait for an official announcement on when we can expect the next-gen hardware for Nintendo to launch, there's one question that keeps being asked by everyone. And that question is when is the perfect time for the console to launch? But that had me thinking, I think we're asking the wrong question. Rather than when is the best time, I think we should ask ourselves, is there even a best time to launch a console? In this video, we are going to be looking over some reasons on why the launch date absolutely affects sales, and then we're also going to go on the flip side and see why the release timing may not actually affect sales. To start off, let's check off some easy boxes. So let's look at the reasons why the launch date totally affects sales. My first point to this is the market conditions. Market conditions completely and undoubtedly affects console sales. I bring this point up because it's the one we keep talking about the most and hearing the most about online. Basically, under certain conditions, the consumers will start to ramp up spending, for example, around the holidays. And obviously it goes without saying why these people are spending more on the holidays, because they're looking for gifts for people. The next point I'd like to bring up is the competition. As much as we like to think that Nintendo's in a league of their own, to which, to a certain degree they are, it would be foolish of us to say that Xbox and PlayStation completely doesn't affect Nintendo. That's why it would be prudent of Nintendo to make sure that the timing doesn't necessarily overlap with any big releases for other consoles. That way, Nintendo can assure that all the media coverage and everybody's attention is on this new console and no other PS5 games, Xbox games, or Xbox or PlayStation console releases, such as a PS5 Pro as example. The next factor that timing could play a big part of is the consumer's behavior. These are things that Nintendo has absolutely no control over. They're kind of just at the mercy of luck, such as the state of the economy. As we are all well aware, the world is still recovering economically from the pandemic. And let's just be honest, it's very expensive to live right now. Housing is expensive, groceries are expensive, and some people, the money they have and the very little they might have left at the end of a paycheck aren't going to be going towards video games. So in this particular circumstance, Nintendo is completely taking a gamble. Whenever Nintendo actually decides to release this console, they'll need to hope that the economy is going to do better so that people actually have the money to be able to afford it. So now, using what we just discussed, let's look at some examples on why the timing absolutely matters. Let's start off by looking at the success of Nintendo's current moneymaker, the Switch. The Switch initially launched in March of 2017, which is a little weird for console standards. Usually, companies try to release their consoles around Christmas time to be able to sell them for the holidays. However, even though there was no consoles releasing that same year, by the Switch being released in March, they were relatively free from any major competing console releases or even games. I think the only big game I can recall from March of 2017 was Nier Automata, but still. And for the next example, let's look at the Wii U and its failure. Although I think a lot of people will agree that what led to the Wii U failing was the atrocious name that led to bad branding, that led to bad marketing, I think a thing that people don't really take enough in consideration is the timing of it all. When the Wii U first released, as we all know, there was a mass confusion about what this product was, and it took quite some time before people understood that this wasn't just an add-on for the Wii, it was a successor to the Wii. And you know what released 1 year after the Wii U? The PS4 and the Xbox One. So yeah, sure, Nintendo was technically a year ahead of the curve, but by the time people actually understood what their product was, the Xbox One and the PS4 were released. And I feel like with the Switch, it really proved the point that technically power isn't everything. You can still have really great games without all the power, but especially back then, people were looking at what console could offer the most horsepower, and the Wii U just wasn't it. But enough of why timing matters, let's shift gears and see why timing might not actually affect anything. The first reason why timing just really doesn't matter is the unique selling points of this console. Every console has a selling point. The Switch was its hybrid nature, the PS5 it's its new DualSense making you be able to feel the game more than ever, and the Xbox looks like a fridge, I guess? I don't know. I want to say Game Pass, but Game Pass isn't unique to just the Xbox Series. But regardless, the new features that are entailed with a new console is what gets people excited. And another selling point is the games. The games that are coming out for this console is what is going to help sell this console. So regardless of what time of year this console comes out, if there's a good concept of a console and there's good games coming out with it, people will want to buy it and will go out and buy it. The second point is the marketing and promotion of the console. Effective marketing and promotion strategies can create buzz and drive sales. Now remember that example with the Wii U I just used? Well, let's revisit that. As discussed, the marketing and the promotion for that console was atrocious. So even though the initial release timing for the Wii U was great, they completely flubbed marketing. So in the same way that if bad marketing can shoot a console in the foot regardless of timing, good marketing can help a new console thrive regardless of timing. And of course, let's not forget Nintendo's biggest asset they have in their back pocket, and that is brand loyalty. Let's be real, Nintendo fans are very, very loyal to Nintendo, even to a fault. I mean, I'll call myself out. If Nintendo decided that they were going to sell a limited edition bottle of ranch, I'd say hell yeah and go buy it. Do I eat ranch? No, but I'd still go and buy it. And I won't pretend this is every single Nintendo fan, but let's be real, there's a lot of us out there that will buy borderline anything they put out. And honestly, brand loyalty can come in various different forms. Yes, there's the people that are loyal to the brand to the point they'll buy everything day one, but even if you don't buy it day one, maybe you only buy it a week down the road, a month down the road, 6 months down the road, a year later, you're still loyal if you buy it consistently. And even if you don't buy it at all, even if you just tune in for the marketing. Let's say you're always staying up to date with what the games Nintendo releases are, what the consoles are, what Nintendo's up to. Even if you don't buy it, Nintendo knows you're still possibly in their market because you are still loyal to the point that you still care. Now let's look at two examples of why timing still doesn't matter. First off, the success of the Nintendo DS. The DS launched in November of 2004 and was facing the PSP. Now the PSP was supposed to be a portable version of the PS2, the best-selling console of all time. And by all means, the PSP was set up for success. The brand recognition for PlayStation was at an all-time high, and it was so much more powerful than the DS itself. But why did the DS sell more? Because of the unique concept of the dual screen and touchscreen features. That and having a library of really accessible games for people of all gaming varieties. Whether you're a core gamer or a casual gamer, let's be real, a bit more on the casual gamer side, there was at least something for everyone. So even though the timing was bad on Nintendo's part, they still ended up making the DS become the second best selling console of all time, only now becoming the third best console because the Switch just took over. My second example has to do with holiday timing. As people keep pointing out, a great time to release a console is around the holidays because people in particular are looking for things to buy to give for the holidays. But genuinely, I think it's kind of a point that is blown out of proportion. Tell me, how does one miss the holidays? How does one take a back alley or a side road and completely miss the months of November and December and pop out back in January? It doesn't really matter what time of year you release your console, you're going to get a first holiday regardless. Actually, you could kind of debate that it's maybe better to not release your console during the holiday season, because if you put all your eggs in one basket to sell at the holidays, you might run out and you might not have the time to restock the shelves. Whereas if you release a console earlier in the year, all your core fans will go out and buy it in the first wave, and then once the first wave is over, you can restock the shelves and get ready for the holidays and get for a second wave. Now that we looked at both the pros and the cons for both sides, now let's look at what I personally think. But before that, a quick short message. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrian and I post weekly Nintendo videos. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing. And with that out of the way, let's go right back into the video. So, what do I believe? Personally, I believe that there's a few variables that will dictate how important timing will actually end up being. First off, good timing entails that it's a good time for a specific person to buy the console. However, a good time is going to vary from person to person. As an example, let me list off 5 different demographics that typically Nintendo tries to go for. First, you have the core fans that buy everything Nintendo, then the general fans that will buy most of what Nintendo has to offer, then the general gamers that don't necessarily, stick to one console brand. Maybe they'll have a PlayStation and a Nintendo, or maybe they'll have something Nintendo and an Xbox, who knows? Then you have your casual gamers that are basically just playing those more lighthearted games, maybe cozy games, indie games, or mobile games. And sometimes Nintendo can push all the way through and reach the non-gamers, and think more of the DS and the Wii. With all these different types of groups, there is just no one-size-fits-all perfect time to release a console. What could be considered the perfect timing for a casual gamer is definitely not going to be the same perfect timing for a core fan, and that's just kind of how it is. And that is why I ultimately believe that the perfect time for Nintendo to release the Switch 2 is going to change depending on what their goal is when releasing the Switch 2. So as an example, if Nintendo wants really big holiday sales, well, yeah, release the console near the holidays. Or let's say Nintendo wants to end the fiscal year off strong and with big momentum moving into the next one so they can impress investors, maybe they should release it in March. Ultimately, the sky's the limit and there is no bad time to release the game. There are better times and lesser times, but no true bad time. There's only 365 days in a year, so it has to be one of them. And unfortunately, most of them will have its flaws and some of them will have its strengths. That's just kind of how it is. And now I turn to you. When do you think is the best time for Nintendo to release the next generation console? Make sure to let me know down in the comments, and with all that being said, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, warao!